ladies and gentlemen. We are back with episode 96 of the ATL Falcons UK podcast. You like that? Don't need to say much more. We did like that. You may notice there's a couple of people missing tonight. Liam is currently getting his black belt, so we're not going to talk rubbish about him tonight because we know what he's messing with now. Cal is missing in action tonight as well, but me and Mark are still going to run through the Bucs game, the Panthers game. We've got a giveaway prize. I don't know what you want to call it to give out, and we'll talk a little bit of London games. Mark was in attendance and he was representing ATL Falcons, so we'll dip into that. We know we're a little bit behind schedule. We played on Thursday. The win feels a lifetime away. However, Mark, how are you feeling?
Feeling really good. I think we once again seen progression from the offense. I think we once again seen progression from Kirk, which for me, I have to kind of take a step back and laugh a little bit, although it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. We had that great event, Matt getting inducted into the Ring of Honor, and then Kirk in his fourth game for the franchise, breaking Matt's one-game passing record, right? So, what a way to announce yourself, right? And announce yourself in front of arguably, what the best quarterback this franchise has ever seen. So, and I think, and I'm going to give the flowers to a good friend of the show in Aaron Freeman over in Locked On Falcons, who
nice.
And I listened that very morning to his podcast, and he said something that resonated so much with me. This team is chaotic. That's who they are.
Yeah.
And I said last week on the show, I'd really like to watch a game where I'm not worried and, borderline having a heart attack into the fourth quarter. Yeah. But that's not who they are, and I think
that's not the case.
I think for me, it's just, Raheem says it a lot in his kind of post games, resilience. We're very, very quickly becoming known as you should fear us in the fourth quarter, not be banking.
We'll get walked over in the fourth quarter,
right? So, great result, very chaotic. And as we said last week, it was going to be a shootout, right? And I think we shot better than they did. So shot it, yes. So great win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Completely share the sentiments about how chaotic we are. The whole Falcons heart rate thing over the years has always been the case. However, this has got a slightly different spin on it because we've typically been leading games, got to the fourth quarter and just exploded. However, we seem to have taken a little switcheroo, a little reverse in the chart. So it is a nice change. What I did think was funny about the Cousins breaking Matt Ryan's record was all the stats pages that they probably had prepared. And I thought the amount of media that probably had to be adjusted and they removed that line from the ball. I thought, that's horrible. Because the amount of stats, it was like, leader of this, leading in that, leading this, leading that. And I thought, there's no way one of them didn't have on like single game passing yards one. And I was like, for God's sake. But I wouldn't have had it any other way. Cousins has put himself at the top of the league this season as well. Nobody's picked 500. I don't think anybody until last night had picked 400 yards, if I saw a correct stat page yesterday.
Yeah, I think before this week, I think kind of like the passing leader was like Dak on like 806 yards. So would have to see where Kirk now sits in that league now after such a a ridiculous passing game. But I think there's a couple of things that kind of stand out. Is we're starting to see that chemistry with London.
Yeah.
And somehow, and I don't know how, and there's been a lot of talk in the media this week, but Mooney is Kirk's guy. Like
he is arguably wide receiver one. Whether it's in number or just in usage, it doesn't matter. But he is the man at the moment in time. I held my hands up a few weeks ago and said I shot too soon and thought, is our depth strong enough? Yeah, we've got the players, but is it strong enough? And I eat my words, because I thought we were going to be very reliant on Drake, and that's not even the case. He even seems secondary at some points.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that room's very, very light. And outside of the main, outside of the main three, you'd kind of go, but then again, and this guy has to get his flowers as well. Carterell Hodge, my guy, and he turned the Jets on for that touchdown. Like I watched it and I was like, have I accidentally pressed fast forward on this video or something? Like the way he accelerated was crazy. So I think we always said, right, a quarterback like Kirk will be able to do a lot more with even average to good receivers, right? And that's what we're starting to see. And I think the passing game that we put together late last week is truly indicative of that kind of Kirk's getting more comfortable. Kirk's getting the chemistry with his guys, right? It's not going to, it's not going to be, we're not going to get 500 yards every week, right? And arguably that was against the Bucs defense, which didn't have Anton Winfield in it. I do think it's a different game if Winfield's playing. I think we massively took advantage of him not playing. But if you watch the amount of yards after catch, the amount of tackles broken by our receivers in that game, I still think it's a different game with Winfield on the field. But to be in that position where we are catching the ball and then having that ultra physicality to continue to break for that extra couple of yards, it's game changing.
Absolutely. And ultimately, I know what you mean about Winfield, but you can only play what's in front of you. And at that time, that's what was there, and it's irrelevant. We've had players missing. Our O-line was still banged up, so you could flip it. Maybe not quite as impactful as Winfield is to the Bucs in individual basis, but still players missing. So it was still us v them.
I mean, you would argue that it's because of our O-line issues and O-line health that we didn't run the ball more. I think we talked about this a little bit in the preview show last week. That Bucs D-line, it was always going to be hard to run the ball against them. But for the little amount we run the ball, I just think, look, it was the game plan. We're going to have to throw the ball against these guys, and we're going to have to massively step out of the comfort zone that we've been in the first few weeks, where we're going to have to rely solely on the pass.
Yeah,
and we came through it with flying colours, and that's why you pay Kirk that's why you pay Kirk that contract, right? Because he can do that, and I am delighted to see all of our weapons across that field. Ray, Pitts back involved again. This proves you can scheme to get these guys open. Well,
that was going to be my next point, the diversity in plays in terms of, you stutter a little bit then, of how each receiver got a pretty even split of the ball. You got Ray with 66 yards, Mooney with 105, London with 154, Hodge with 67, Pitts with 88, and that is purely passing play. And obviously you got Bijan and Algier that had a few each. We've not seen that balance. We definitely didn't see it last year at any point. I don't think we saw like a comfortable spread to that capacity.
Well, no, and mainly because we had no say that didn't trust the quarterback, with probably good reason now in hindsight to throw the ball. I would say that a game like we seen on Thursday, that's not balance, right? So, so we, like I said, we can't do that every week. I think about that absolute rocket in the triple coverage to Mooney for the touchdown. Like, please don't try too many of them, please, because
it will backfire and it will be a pick six, and we will be going, why has he done that? And people will be going, get Penix on. But here we are.
Well, I think after a performance like that, and actually when you open up the conversation about these quarterbacks across the league, and actually the resurgence of quarterbacks who everyone thought was finished or whatever, and it really speaks to, you need a quarterback who suits your system, who is on the same, is the right quarterback for the right coach, right? And I think it speaks volumes when you consider we reached the Penix where we did, and I think putting Penix behind Kirk in this kind of game manager, gunslinger, you're sitting the right kind of quarterback behind the right kind of quarterback. Do you know what I mean? And that's where, for me, you kind of go, actually, there might be something in this. Like when Penix finally does come through, you're going to have somebody who's just watched his mentor, if you will, really, really kind of give a masterclass in throwing the ball. So, again, I'm not expecting Kirk to do that every week, but we want Kirk to get better in this offense. We want this offense to get more cohesive. And actually, you'd argue that in this game, once again, defense really, really leaked a lot in the early stages of the game.
It did, and that was a killer, really, because we've said this a few weeks on the bounce now. We were so reliant on the defense right at the beginning of the season, and they looked like they were going to keep us steady, and it just wasn't clicking. Exactly the same as the Saints game. It felt like yards sometimes. And when they had that kind of momentum, I just thought, how on earth is the offense ever going to get the opportunity? Because we got to the point when they went a score above us where we were, it was, if you don't score off the drive, then it felt like there was no way back whatsoever. And I don't know what happened in that back end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter. Something just clicked, because it had not happened all game at all. And I'd like to say I'm one of the positive two in this podcast. And even I was starting to not lose faith, but it was getting hard to watch, because you thought, Kirk's got to get us a touchdown now, or we're too behind. And if we were too behind, we were never going to catch back up properly, or that's what it felt like at the time. And
football's a game where you've got to stay in the game, right? Like as long as you're still in it, you've always got a chance. And I think a big loss to that linebacker core, like Troy and Nate still, being out. Hopefully that's not the case next week. Although if it's, if you're going to have a subpar defense, then you probably want it to be against the Panthers to give Troy and Nate the opportunity to get healthy again. So I think we've got to compartmentalize it a bit, that defense is a couple of key pieces missing right now. It was good to see Rook getting on, obviously. I'm guessing
last show.
I'm guessing Raheem watches the show. But it's frustrating because our defense started so well. Yeah. But again, one thing that you can't knock them for, they are making adjustments to right the wrongs.
Yeah.
What I would just beg Please, can we not?
Plead.
Like, can we not get ourselves into a position where the adjustments have to be so costly, right?
Yeah.
So, like we're getting ourselves into a position where we're allowing teams to stomp on us for the first half, first 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, it's clicking now. We get outstop them.
Yeah.
I'd prefer that to be quicker, if I'm honest. But again, I would say I'm probably nitpicking at this point. So
Yeah, no, of course. Beggars cannot be choosers either. This is the
No.
best we've had it in a long while. So
Yes.
I know it's early in the season. Let's jump into the comments a second. Paul, we are still liking that. I can assure you of that. This is what the weird thing about this show is. So typically we always do our shows on Mondays, and it feels like a lifetime away since we played, but still top of the NFC South. So
With Carolina to come.
Exactly, and there's a big game on tonight. I don't know if anybody's noticed who's playing tonight, so we'll dip into that. We may as well swivel straight into Carolina, to be completely honest. Coming off the back of another loss, sitting at 1-4. Started with Dalton at quarterback, finished with Bryce on at quarterback. Don't know what they think they're doing. Saw a really awkward interview from the coach saying we didn't want Dalton playing behind a banged up O-line and stuff like that. And I just thought, wow, if we don't beat these by 30
you're
points...
okay for Bryce too.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, listen, I know some Panthers fans, and they are, there is as deflated as a fan base as you could possibly imagine, right? And unfortunately, I questioned the Canales hire in the off season. I thought it was really strange. They have looked more competitive with Dalton to a degree. I mean, they've only beaten the Raiders, right? And you could kind of argue, well, it's probably going to be a bit of a reverse shootout for who gets the number one pick out of those two at this point. But I suppose I wasn't necessarily concerned, but I think kind of I had one eye on, are they going to build up a head of steam now?
Yeah.
That tells me throughout any shadow of a doubt, the franchise is still fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
And I don't see, I could quite possibly see a comfortable win this week coming up, which again, for once, and I'm touching wood as I say that, because if there's anybody who can make sure that we jinx it, it's definitely us, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can't see a world where this isn't a comfortable win.
No, it's one of those. It's a luxury that we've not yet been afforded this season. Every single game, win or loss, has been a one-score game or less, if that makes any sense at all, like much closer than just a full score. But they are in a bad way. I know the Falcons know how to Falcon. I'm hoping that we're past that at this point. Not completely, but against teams where you categorically should win, I'd hope that we are past that stage. It's a little bit different when you're against a team where you're going into the game at 50-50, i.e. if you go into the Seahawks game and you're winning and then you end up losing, you're a bit like, they're a bit more middle of the road, but the Panthers are, like you said, rock bottom, nailed on for probably the number one draft pick.
I would imagine.
Really clicking, not got much going for themselves. You said they have been more competitive with Dalton, but only in terms of staying in games a little bit longer. And I really don't know if that's even down to him. And I know I don't think you're all in on Bryce, and I know that, and I get I'm probably a little more pro Bryce than you are, but I don't think it's solely the quarterback play that has resulted in the turnaround. They just found a little bit of form in a weird stint.
Right, but let me give you an example. Right, you can put a good quarterback into a dysfunctional team, right? When I think about Joe Burrow's first year with the Bengals,
Yeah.
the Bengals were absolutely awful. Burrow instantly made them better.
Yeah.
If I think about recent memory, CJ Stroud went into Houston. Now,
Yeah.
you'd argue that, you know, they'd kind of sold the farm, so they did pick up some pieces. But yeah, they did, not nowhere near to the tune that they've done this year.
No.
And you could argue that it's actually going not as well as in the first year, right? So
Yeah.
so I take your point. I was never high on Bryce. Like I didn't think he was the number one, and kind of improved, right? But but
Typical.
I still think if you are a top 5 quarterback, that you should have the ability to have an impact on
Yeah.
the competitiveness of your team. So, you know, I suppose the point I'm trying to get at is, yes, the Panthers are awful, but I haven't seen anything from Bryce to make me go, A, he's developing,
Yeah.
or B, he's making that offense better in any way, shape, or form. Right? I know they haven't got like great pieces, like I get that.
Yeah.
But CJ Stroud was working with like Noah Brown and stuff last year. Do you know what I mean? And you know, I'm just really not convinced. I think it's a bust. I think it's going to go down in one of the biggest busts in you know, top 3 quarterback history. And let's face it, we've had a few over the past.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we have
10 years. So, yeah, I think that deal with the Bears is genuinely, you know, going to haunt them for many years to come.
Yeah, I completely get it. I just, you kind of pipped my argument before I even got to it. I was going to say he's not really got assets ahead of him as such. Like, it is limited, but I know what you mean. Ultimately, a top quarterback does make the difference. I just think he's one of them where he was. I always find it really bizarre for the really high draft picks, because especially at quarterback, you're getting thrown into a situation that you know is already an absolute swamp. Like, they never go, obviously you cannot go into a good situation, and the Panthers is one of the worst it's been for a long time because of the amount of like mini rebuilds they kept having. They were like, okay, no, we're gonna go with this coach and we're going to use these players and this principle, and then a few years later it's like, and like, I just think it was fundamentally wrong from every level.
And I guess if you're going out to get that you know, number one QB, right? If you're going out to get that, and if I think about what the Texans have done around CJ Stroud, right? They've went and boosted the O-line. They've went and got him weapons. Mm-hmm. They went and got him a running back. You know, they've built pieces on defense. Like, you can, like, there's one guy that comes to mind when I think of what the Panthers have done for Bryce Young, which was Xavier Legette, who was like, what was he, like 32nd pick, right? And he was on my draft board, right? I liked him, but like, what has this franchise done for Bryce? Like, for me, they've just set him up to fail.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where my, not guilt, because it's not my fault, but that's where the like sympathy comes in for him, where I just think, if only you were dealt a different hand of cards, you might have been in a better position.
Well, sure, but I guess the other conversation around that is, you've seen quarterbacks go out into the wilderness, and then come back in, right? Sam Darnold, my guy, right?
Yeah.
You know, Baker, you know, we can Geno Smith, you know, the list goes on, right?
It does.
Joe Flacco, like guy was a savior in Cleveland. I think he's about 68 years old. Like come on. Like, you can, like, there is still life for Bryce after
Oh
Carolina
yeah.
if this doesn't work out. If he goes somewhere else, or stays in Carolina, gets the right coach, the franchise actually decide to do, to invest in, giving him the right platform to succeed. And I sit here and go, do I? And you know yourself, right? Have I always kept up even a small amount of confidence in Sam Darnold? Yes, I have. Right? Because
You
I
have
always thought the kid could play ball, right?
Yeah.
So, but do I have any of that for Bryce Young? Maybe you can come clip this show in 5 years' time when he's killing it for the Titans or somebody else who kind of took a punt on him. And maybe that happens, right? But am I in any way confident that he's going to become a competent NFL quarterback? Mate, no.
No. It's fair enough. I'm not saying he's going to be the one, but I just think a fresh start would do him the world of good. And I think any player that walks into the Panthers right now is basically committing career suicide. So,
two of the best QBs in the NFL right now were on the Panthers roster at the same time.
Exactly the problem.
Baker was filling in at D-line in training camp while he was at the Panthers because there was another QB that was there at the time. I can't remember his name.
I won't get that off the top of my head.
but Baker was like third string.
Yeah.
Well, like third or fourth string. Well, while Donald was there as well. Like, PJ Walker, that was it.
There we go.
And so, you just kind of go, well, guys, this is the organization we're talking about here.
It is.
Just, I think it screams a lot about the Panthers as an organization. I genuinely just, guys, set it on fire. Just start again.
Burn it and start again because now is not the time. It's a bizarre one, but ultimately, it's touch wood. I'm going to work in our favor this weekend.
Yes.
Like you said, I'd expect to win. I'd expect a comfortable win. I know we're the Falcons, so that might not be the case. But ideally, you want to be going into week 7, 4-2. The Saints have a very tricky game tonight. They're against the Chiefs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, I'm not even going to say it's a 50-50 because it's not. The Chiefs are the odds on to win. I'm not saying the Saints can't, but the Chiefs will be favourites.
I think you have to bear in mind, Patrick Mahomes managed to smash his top receiver's ACL clean out of his knee last week. So, he's got Kelsey, who's done
nothing,
not a lot this season. So I actually think, and God forbid I say this, but I actually think that I wouldn't call the Chiefs favourites at all at the minute because if anything, apart from whoever's refereeing, they haven't got that many pieces. So nice. I'm being facetious, obviously, but I think Kansas City are going to have to work hard tonight because if there's one thing that we know the Saints are going to do is the Saints are going to be aggressive on defense.
Yeah,
and as we spoke about, one way to beat the Chiefs is to make sure you get pressure on Mahomes. I think the Saints have the ability to do that.
They also have corners in the backfield that have been catching balls for fun earlier on in the season, and when he's partial to an interception here and there, they seem to have the facilities for it, even though by name they don't, but they've been playing that way. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously I want to say they lose, obviously, but I guess I don't think that's going to be as much of a walk in the park for Kansas City as it might look on the face of it.
Yeah, well, I've just popped the basic stats up then, just on the NFL app, just to have a quick glance. And points per game, the Saints are 7th and the Chiefs are 23rd. passing yards per game is 29th and 26th, so about fair on that. Rushing yards per game, the Saints are 13th and the Chiefs are 28th. Sacks, the Chiefs are 28th for that as well. And then defensive interceptions, the 28th for that as well. Whereas the Saints are 4th for interceptions. So statistically speaking, I'm not a stats man, you know I'm not, but statistically speaking, there is actually one superior team.
Yes, but you have to. But again, let's. I'm trying to be objective. I'm never going to give the Saints their flowers, but I'll be objective. Yeah, but those stats are massively padded with their first 2 games.
Unbelievably,
So I think we just and just remember, KC always, A, as I said earlier on, stay in games, and B, they they always find a way, right? Yeah. So I think I actually think it'll be a close game, if I'm honest. But I think I'm not sure those. Quote Raheem here: "Stats are for losers," right? So I know that caused a stir. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's. I'm still expecting a Kansas City win, but I think it'll be tough. And one thing that I would watch out for tonight is if the Saints go run heavy, Alvin Kamara is not going to see game 10.
That man's not a well man.
Well, he's not going to be if they carry on using him like they are. And I think that Saints offense without Alvin Kamara is a different box of frogs completely. So 100%. So if anything, lads, keep using him.
We play you again.
I'm happy for him to be on the sideline when we go down to the dome.
I understand the usage in terms of he's an unbelievable asset. Let's milk him whilst we can, but you're also running him into the ground physically and metaphorically, absolutely burning him out.
And Taysom Hill's still out. Apparently, that's broken ribs, I think. So
yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. So
again, you haven't got Kamara and Hill. You got no running game.
Yeah, exactly. Just going to jump to the comments a quick second. We've got Christy back in. I just realised that the Bucs play the Aints Sunday for the first games, and we play the Panthers for the second set. Yeah, that's a tasty weekend.
Yes.
We could do with the Bucs and Aints game going to overtime, just so they have to play a bit more, and then just burning each other out. To be completely honest, I don't really care what happens. I suppose it depends on what happens between now and then.
I said weeks ago, the key is the divisional games.
Yep.
So I think, you have to kind of go, right, well, in which case, if we're trying to be tactical about it, who would you prefer to win against between the Bucs and the Saints? Do we see the Saints and then see us go on a bad run and then have it between 3 teams?
Yeah.
Or, do we root for the Bucs and then it's just a 2-horse race? And Danny, that's a very, very difficult question, right? I appreciate it. But what I would say is that I think the Bucs, I think we discussed it in the group chat during the week, the Bucs actually have what I would probably class as a bit more of a challenge in running than us or the Saints. So actually, we probably want the Bucs to win that game to keep that Saints total down, and then
absolutely.
Well, I know, but we've got to.
You have to tactically plan, because if a team's going to come within a win of you, or a team could go within 3. I'll take my rivals winning a game every now and again if it still keeps them miles away and keeps our closest rivals away.
Exactly.
So it's all tactical.
But we just need to focus on what we can control.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think it was interesting, right? When we looked at the schedule that we've got coming up, and actually what we actually said was, some of these games that we thought were going to be not walkovers, right, but easy-ish.
Yeah.
Actually, those Saints are getting getting a bit of ahead of some of them teams are getting ahead of steam, right? Seahawks, they lost yesterday. Broncos, I think that's an entirely different box of frogs. Chargers still possibly without Justin Herbert. I'm not sure. I haven't been checking in on them. Vikings, I'll be honest, watching them in London yesterday. Don't think
Beatable.
they're yeah. I mean, like, I was hoping to see my boy do some stuff yesterday, and it was like, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, you're right.
But Commanders, like, again, I wouldn't say they look legit, but I would say they definitely look better. So, we've got to make sure we keep that pressure on, and we've got to make sure we stay healthy.
Yeah, 100%. And the next two games are both. Every game is winnable, but the next two games are both definitely winnable. And ultimately, if you stay on a roll and you're coming off the back of 4 wins on the bounce, it puts you in a very, very good stead. Especially, like you said, the Bucs' next 4 or 5 games are what you'd say are all 50-50 or uphill battle games. Obviously, in the NFL, anything can happen, but we'll see. We'll see. Just off the back of your Vikings comment, Paul says they're the most unconvincing 5-0 team in a long while.
Yeah. I mean, I remember not so many years ago, I think everyone said the same about the Vikings under Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I guess from their point of view, and certainly, from my point of view as well, I looked at that Viking team and I looked at some of the moves they made in the offseason. I wasn't too enthralled by some of the signings that they made, but again, they're making it work. So again, if you end up in the playoffs in that division, that's a pretty, normally classed as a pretty strong division.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just the art of the possible, right? So just a point on the Panthers game just came up in the chat. Definitely think it's worth a mention.
Judon, good and munch.
Well, their O line's not great anyway, as we found out, right? But to have your starting center out as well, I wouldn't just say Judon. I'd be hoping for that whole D line to cause major problems. And this is a game for me. What you're going to lose by giving Rook more reps.
I agree.
If anything, you'd argue this is the perfect game. And I alluded to the health point earlier on. Grady and Dio are gonna need to make sure we conserve the energy, conserve the health, because it's we're still early doors in this season, my man.
It's a long season. It's a long season, and like you just said, it's not exactly like Sunday's a pressure cooker kind of game. You kind of can go in a little bit more relaxed, thinking, if I do make a mistake, it shouldn't be detrimental. Whereas when you're playing games against the Saints, the Bucs, Chiefs, one mistake and it could be game over. Whereas against the Panthers, I don't want to write us up too much, but you think you've got that little bit of leniency where you can come in and not feel like one mistake is the end of the game for you.
No. And I think one thing that we've seen the past 2 games is, as I said, we've kind of almost let a lead slip. And then we've had to, kind of chase that game into the third and the fourth quarter. Yeah. And then, but this is a great opportunity to go, no, like we're gonna dominate this game. It's, pretty, like almost in our, English football terms, you almost treat this like a preseason friendly against Dorking Wanderers or something. Do you know what I mean? Just
I'm talking fans in the comments going, "What on earth did we do wrong?"
Yeah, well, I can't say I've ever been to Dorking, but you get what I mean, right? You know, you have to see this as an opportunity to just, you know, try some new stuff. You know, like whatever you were doing last week on offense was working, but you know, we're still going to have to keep that, you know, offense unpredictable.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Well,
I want to see some jet sweeps.
We both seem pretty happy. I think that's what a few wins on the bounce does for you, especially against divisional rivals.
Yeah.
We won't talk too much more about Panthers. I think we know everyone, us, people watching, everyone on socials, we know what we're expecting against them. And ultimately, we just have to show up and do our jobs. So let's hope that is the case. We are going to do a bit of a shorter show tonight, but you were out representing us in NFL.
I was.
Go on, give us a bit of an overview. This is the first time in 5 years, I think I've not been. Unfortunately, but yeah.
If I'm 100% honest.
Oh no.
I'm not going back to Wembley because I'm absolutely sick of watching the Jags. And like Spurs is just such a weird venue, I think, for American football. There's nothing going on around it.
Tailgating nurses, though.
Like at least at Wembley, there's like, you know, a little bit of stuff to do outside and stuff like that. I genuinely just I went yesterday, and I think had I not enjoyed spending time with one of my best mates who I went with, I don't think I'm that bothered about it. Like if the Falcons came back, I think I'd go. I'm just kind of at that point where I don't really feel like the NFL are trying anymore. Like there used to be a lot of stuff that went on around London during the NFL games. You know, you used to be able to go to. I remember going to watch around the NFL, like the guys from that do a talking one year and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't. I kind of almost feel like that they're not trying that hard anymore. It was great to be out yesterday with so many football fans. I had so many good chats with Vikings fans on the train.
Yeah.
I met quite a few Falcons fans. I'm going to sound like such a dick when I say this, but a couple of people recognize me from the pod. So
nice.
it was cool. Yeah. My mate who I went with, who's a Steelers fan and got me into this sport. We were walking back after the game towards the train station, and someone said, "Oh, you had a Pits jersey on or something," and he was like, "Oh, you're the dude from the podcast." And we had a little chat, and then my mate turned to me and he went, "I got you into this sport 7 years ago, and now we're walking through." Crowds of NFL fans and people are recognizing you. Do you realize how crazy that is? And I was like, yes, it's crazy. But I said, I've got to talk a lot of smack. To get recognized. So yeah, no, it was really cool. I don't know. I think I'm kind of like, I'm not. I just don't think the NFL are really trying very much anymore over here. I'm kind of really sad by that because I used to live for the 3 games and I used to go to all 3. And now I'm like once a year. And then I come home from that kind of once a year and I'm like, yeah, it was fun. But it's, with all the travel and stuff,
I agree though. I agree. My first one was only like 5 years ago or something. And even since then, I feel like it's not deteriorated, but the commitment's been a little bit less. Like you said, my first game was at Wembley. They had not tailgate as such, but that kind of vibe where there was stalls everywhere and it was like throw an NFL ball in a hole. They had the stage with like Sky Sports and BBC showing like plays and getting people to kick the ball, just like stuff to draw you in and make you feel like you were watching an event outside of the event. And I didn't feel any of that last year whatsoever at Spurs. It just, I love the sport. The sport is stunning and always will be. But you want to feel like you go into a full
event
and weekend and everything. And like you said, this year, yeah, they had the inductions into the Hall of Fame, which is cool in one way, but even no halftime events, and I'm not saying the halftime events have always been the right choices, but you're paying for, like, you want the experience, you want it to be like star-studded almost. It's one of those.
And I could deal without. I'll be honest, I could deal without the halftime shows, right? But again, like when I think about, I walked through the concourse bit, and it was like halfway through second quarter, and I was like, look, I'm going to go get us some food now, right? So I went to one of the many bars and all this sort of stuff, advertising food. I was like, cool, 2 hot dogs, please. We haven't got any. I was like, oh, okay. Don't know why. You're advertising it, and I've just stood in this queue for 15 minutes, but okay, fine, whatever. So then I went along the next one.
Oh, no.
I haven't got any. So then I went along the next one. And by this point, I'm kind of like, if I'm going to go to the other side of the stadium for a hot dog, like, and, I'd had a belly full of beer as well, so I needed some food. So I ended up just sitting there like some sort of gopher, just eating loads of packets of crisps, because there was and it's things like that where you go to the States, there's like, I'm sure someone told me that in the Bends there's a Chick-fil-A in the Bends, like, guys, come on, like,
catch up.
What is this, you
can't have the American football pitch under the surface of the football, soccer pitch, whatever you want to call it, but then not facilitate the events that you've created the pitch for. So all you're offering is a pitch and a seat and not the full experience. It's like
my first game that I went to at Wembley, and I always like to sit in the gods because I like to be able to watch the entire game, right? And I think the higher you sit, the more you can see those kind of big players, right? So I think the first time we went, I think my ticket to sit in the gods, right, was like 40 quid, but that was fine, because that was where I wanted to sit. And then you look at, I paid 80 quid to go this weekend. I couldn't find any food. Right, like, and I'm so what are we doing here, guys? Do you know what I mean? And I hear people all the time go, oh, Spurs is mint. It's a lovely stadium.
The stadium's beautiful. That doesn't mean the experience is mint. That's a completely different thing.
So I'm it's a bit bittersweet, because unless there are some big games happening next year, I'm just not sure if I want to bother again. I'll probably change the tune this time next year.
Yeah, when it comes back, it's natural, isn't it? And when it comes back around, it's like, it's back, let's go.
Yeah.
But if it makes you feel any better, mate, I flicked it on the TV for a little while, and they didn't even have the yards up or anything like that. So all we had was a scoreboard, and I was like, how can I physically watch this game without knowing what on earth is going on?
And one good thing yesterday, I think it was very, very heavy Vikings compared to Jets. And I met loads of Vikings fans, and I was out and about. I had my Kirk jersey on. And all the Vikings fans I met were absolutely brilliant, and really complimentary of how we've been doing with Kirk, and I love that. I love being able to kind of talk ball objectively with other fan bases, or most anyway. And I just want to pass a massive apology to Paul, who I said, I'll be in the Beehive, come and meet me. And he did message me, and I was there. So, and I mean, what I look like, Paul. So if you couldn't see us, then I probably wasn't there at the same time. But I only got the message this morning. So apologies, I didn't message you back. So, but yeah, it was great to get out and meet some familiar faces yesterday.
Nice, lovely stuff. I was jealous looking at everyone's content thinking, oh, what a weekends we've had. But you are kind of right, though. The weekend is very based around who you spend it with and stuff like that. Like last year, met up with you and Liam and went out with Al and all of that. And you're seeing everyone. And it's the community, isn't it? It's the whole thing. The event doesn't have to be that good when you're seeing that. Sorry,
it doesn't have to be, but I think it helps the atmosphere.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Sorry, I just saw that Paul said I was busy scoffing burgers.
Fair enough. I would much rather eat burgers than talk to me. So
yeah, without doubt.
But yeah, all in all, a little bit bittersweet for me, if I'm honest. I just hope this isn't the start of the NFL starting to take the UK fan base for granted a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Paul made a very good point a little bit higher up, and I didn't pop it up because we were mid-flow at the time, but he said, oh, hello. They don't need to do any of that because they know they'll sell out. And that is fair. Why spend more money if you don't have to? But it'll get to a point where that'll buckle and people will be like, meh. You've got to draw people into the sport. And if you're not providing the full experience, new fans won't join the sport. Current fans will still keep going, and that'll always be the case because we want to watch football. But if you want a new fan base and you're going to want an international franchise and all that jazz, you need to suck everyone in and make it sellable.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think just there's almost part of me that just goes, just let us properly tailgate.
Yeah.
Just let us get stalls in the car park.
Yeah. And just try it and just see what happens.
I think we don't do ourselves any favors as a country because I think if you, I'm obviously advocating for the idea, but I think people might end up taking
absolutely. Right. On that note, we are pretty much done for the night, but we do have one small order of business. If you follow us on social media, X, Facebook, Twitter, that is X.
Stop calling it X.
Yeah, there we go. That's why I said Twitter, because I naturally come back around to it. Anyway, our merch is now available. As you will see, me and Mark very nicely modeling. It's beautiful. White, black, red, t-shirts, hoodies, caps, snapbacks, mugs, coasters, the works. Someone even messaged us today saying it's such good quality that he had to order again, and he's got himself another batch, which is a stunning reflection. So Barney, I don't know if you're watching, but thank you for ordering again. But yeah, we have been running a competition. That's in reference to
I know.
in London. We've been running a giveaway. All you had to do was like, share, and drop us a subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to get our subscribers up. This is hard graft. We love jumping on every week, but like X and Facebook are so convenient to watch. People just don't love YouTube because I think maybe it's not as functional. So we've been dragging you all over to YouTube. I've not got a beautiful spin the wheel or anything for you, unfortunately. I've got a list of names, all of them, and the ats. And I've done a generator on Excel because I'm cool like that. So I'm going to hit go, see who it is. It's going to allocate to one of the numbers of people. Everybody's got a number, and it's going to give a number, and we're going to get a winner from it. The winner gets a £40 voucher to use on our store, which is any item and a bit left over if you really want it. And if you don't win, we are very sorry, but you can still head over to the store. There is some good stuff, and we will keep adding as we go along. Without any further ado, I will click go on this.
Need to make sure you put it up to the camera, Danny, so that everyone can see you're not fixing the result, yeah?
I know, I'm trying. It's only a little... right, okay. It's not stunning at all, this. So when I click... Wait, can you see that? When I click the tick, a number's going to show, and then I'll zoom in on the number. This is really old school. So boom. Number 11 is the winner. So just to confirm, 11 is the number that's come up. I am going to go up to number 11 on the spreadsheet. This is no messing about. Where is it? Number 11.
Ben Rudge Morrison.
Morris. You are over on Twitter and X. I've got you at there. If you're not watching, that's fine. We'll message you. Congratulations.
No, if he's not watching, then we're going to do.
He doesn't get it. Should we go next round?
No.
Stunning stuff. Congratulations, Ben. I will drop you a message after this with your voucher. Everyone else, I'm very sorry. We will be doing more and more as we go along, though, and we're going to add new products as we go along too. We've had a couple of shouts for zip-ups and stuff like that. I'm open to it. So any suggestions, we're good to go with. Other than that,
go do signed cards.
Yes, only Mark will be doing them because none of the rest of us are famous enough.
I set myself up for that one, didn't
I? We're going to be like, so you know when you get the like one of five Mark holding the big chain like that.
Just
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. It's been a very different show. Just me and Mark is a different vibe. It's a bit back and forth. I'm not saying I didn't like it though. Not saying I didn't like it. But thank you all for watching. It's been a pleasure. We will be back next week, hopefully with another win on the cards. Mark, tell them where they can get the show.
Guys, you can watch / listen to us retrospectively on YouTube. Shows available on all social media platforms as well. You can get the audio version if you like to listen to this podcast while you drive. Available on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Paul, Matthew, Wayne, Kirsty, Kristen, Christy, I can't say it. I read it wrong twice. Aidan.
You did.
Britt. Thank you, everyone, for watching. It has been a pleasure. We will catch you all next week. See you later. Wait for the brand music.